Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 1. That's right, folks. If you've been following my channel at all, you might have realized I haven't been covering the other Absolute comic books. For the same reason, I'm not covering the Ultimate comics at Marvel. I think they're fun. I haven't hated any of them. In either of the cases, I haven't hated either interpretation of Absolute or Ultimate. There's just so many comic books to talk about, and sometimes you gotta draw the line somewhere. I'm not super excited about another interpretation of Batman. That's not me saying it's not good. There's just other comic books I'd rather read. But what I do want to see is a new interpretation of Martian Manhunter. So I got really excited when this was announced. Dennis Camp, who is kind of just killing it right now in comic books. He made the Ultimates into probably like a must-read book of the year. Maybe one of the best mainstream comic books on shelves right now. So you got a really fun, talented artist like Javier Rodriguez, who I love. If you haven't seen his work on Zatanna, Bring Down the House, which happened last year, that book was gorgeous. Utterly fantastic. So combining those two, man, am I going to be excited for that. I'm going to be super excited to see what that could look like. And this is going to be really fun. And this issue is crazy. It's crazy. I think this issue is insane in all of the right ways, because it's the perfect blend of like a creator going off into a weird direction, just like how do we play with the formula, and an artist who can keep up with that. So this book opens up with John Jones. He is an FBI agent, and he's in an explosion. He's in like a coffee shop that explodes. That is the first page. And then we see him kind of waking up from the explosion, being bandaged up in a hospital, and then getting the bandages on his face. And in the next page, we just see like the profiles of him in all those scenarios. He's thinking of just to himself like why people do the things they do. His speech bubbles are normal, and his like thought bubbles where he's like thinking, it's like the classic rectangular box. But when we see like the Martian part of like what's coming up, they're more like distorted and cloud looking, not like a basic shape with like the thoughts or anything. So in the final like panel on this page, we do see like the Martian outline. We'll cut back to that in a minute here. We then go to the hospital where the doctor's like, it's kind of amazing you're alive, but like you're gonna probably like experience some headaches and nausea and like weird visions and confusion. So just try not to go crazy. Like you're very lucky to be alive. Most people would die in the situation you were like in an explosion. We then see the explosion happen again. He tries lighting a cigarette in the hospital, and the doctor's like, you can't smoke in here. And he's like, well, then what's all this smoke coming from? Like the smoke of the colors. We'll get into more of like what the colors symbolize and everything, but one of the greatest techniques of this book, and I think just of like Javier Rodriguez's entire career, is his use of colors. And this issue, it's all matted colors. It's really dark and like very specific tones. So when the colorful stuff of the Martian element comes into play, it's bright reds and greens and blues and yellows, like very primary colors to go over top of like the dreary world. So out of the hospital, John meets up with his wife, and her name is Bridget. And I'm sorry, I just find it funny that a character's name is Bridget Jones. I think that's fun. She's like, maybe you should take some time off work. You were just in an explosion. I'm sure they're going to understand that you should take a vacation. He's like, they're not going to let me take a vacation. He doesn't really want to. She talks about their son, Tyler, and that he's like meeting with a new speech therapist tomorrow and just kind of setting up something cool. And as that panel keeps going on, slowly the colors start to come in again. Smoke is a huge theme with that because fire is, of course, the thing that kills Martian Manhunter. It's like his greatest weakness in mainstream comic books. So the lighter that John keeps sparking up is like the colors of the Martian, and like more word bubbles that are saying like memory of, you know, desert camping as a boy and all that kind of stuff. Just something crossing into both lines of like these two things connecting into one being. So is he going to get a vacation? The office wants him to take one, but he's like, I don't want a vacation. I'd rather like stay focused on this because it's all I have going for me. I need this to keep my head sane. So they're like, I guess we can't actually stop you from not taking a vacation, so fine, you can work. The lines become more blurred as that passes on. Every time there's like a bright color presented like ketchup on your burger and fries, it makes him see the world in a different way. Their narration from John's point of view is him speculating on how people do the things they do or why they do them. So he continues on, just trying to further investigate the stuff that happened to him, like why the coffee shop blew up. And he starts talking about himself, like how he thinks his boss, or like his top one, Newell, doesn't like him, thinks he's cold, calls him the Martian to his wife, and, you know, Martian, distant, different, alien. And that we see like the smoke of the Martian following John. Just that kind of thing. I don't know if I have to point this out, but I'm just going to anyways, because I think there's some people who interpret things a different way. In a human form, classic John Jones has always been presented as like a white man. I think it's like a more recent development that some iterations, I think the cartoon in particular and like the Supergirl show, made him black. I like either version. I think it works more for this kind of like classic espionage, like noir tone to make him a classically white lead. So I'm fine with that. Would it have worked if he was a person of color? Yes. But I think when you're doing like I'm an agent whose life's being turned upside down and like everybody thinks I'm lying, but I'm telling the truth, I think it works more when it's like this classically red-haired white guy. So he starts like investigating this stuff, and as he's going along just like talking to the people that would have known the bomber, he starts to realize he knows stuff about them that he shouldn't know, like how his mother hates pickles, so when they have burgers, he'd always take the pickles from her, that kind of stuff. Like, how do I know these things about her? He keeps reenacting the vision in his mind, the smoke keeps clearing up. He eventually drives home, not realizing where he's going, like he's just losing track of everything. He sees his wife cutting food and starts to like blur the lines into like the weird Martian smoke again. He goes to talk to his son in like one of the coolest depictions of the book, I think, when he goes to see his son. And he's nonverbal, so his son is just making like figures and sculpting stuff out of clay. And he's like, "Oh, is that you and mommy? Do you have one of daddy?" And the kid points over to like a figurine that's the Martian. It is the Martian Manhunter design for the Martian aspect of the character that we see in the cover. It's either that like the kid actually just sculpted a Martian and that's what he's calling daddy, or John is going so deep into his psyche that the thing he is seeing as himself is the Martian that is following him. Or whatever that could be. It's brilliant. It is truly brilliant. I know you've seen both Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez like posing and posting pictures of like an actual clay sculpted version of the Martian. That is so cool. Really fun to see that. I like it a lot. So it's late at night. John's freaking out, still not really sure what to do. He gets up to go smoke. He tells his wife that he has to go to work early, but he's just kind of like bailing, goes to a movie, starts having like moments of like his first fight and stuff like that. Everything going bad. The lines are becoming way too blurred. So he goes to the doctor again. Things are getting worse. Now there's literally like blobs and things following all around. The red is clearly like the eyeball of the Martian that is following him. There's like fingertips grabbing out to it. Like there is some anamorphic form that this is taking where you could tell like that's supposed to be human or alien or just like the conceit of something that is alive. The doctor's like, it's probably just stress that's eating at you, but it's clearly not. So he goes once more to talk to the mother of the bomber, who is Mike Miller, and she doesn't really know why that stuff would happen. As it's going on, smoke is like searing into the house, and he sees like the smoke, the colorful smoke of like the Martian entity coming to him, and for the first time, he breathes it in, and it like inhales in him, and he starts having complete visions of the bomber. Like, here's Mike's first day of school. I don't know how that happened. Here's like when he was disappointed that his father wasn't going to be returning home. All this stuff she told him, and he like coughs out and spits out all of this like smoke, and he has to like leave. So when he heads down the streets of New York in a beautifully depicted panel, maybe I shouldn't say New York. I'm just going to say it's New York, but do they have like, because Gotham exists and Kansas exists, and I think, I not that I dropped off the other Absolute books, I can't remember where they take place just because there's so many other books going on. So he's heading down the streets of the city. The smoke is like coming into like very like singular colors now. He's having visions, and the visions are of like the Martian part, thinking about the first house they bought. Now the lines are blurring. Whatever this thing was that infected him, whatever time it happened, it's now blurring the lines. And he is like remembering the first time he started smoking, or like the things his dad said about smoking. You know, when there's smoke, there's fire. He remembers the explosion. And as he continues walking down, the smoke is coming off all the random people of the city. He's getting like memories and hits of them everywhere. He keeps coughing and coughing and is coughing everything. And then the lettering of the smoke starts to form. So he starts realizing like, oh, I'm seeing like eggs and bacon and milk and ground beef and stuff. And, they said, what about that? And like this, oh, it's the thing Rodriguez does so well. And I love it so much, is just giving us some really unique artwork. Nothing else looks like this. Nothing else is presenting like this. It's kind of amazing. And I think it looks really good, really satisfying. And Jean is just freaking out, and then suddenly he hears the voice telling him to breathe in, and we see like this is like the clearest outline we have of the Martian looking at him saying breathe it in, breathe it in. So he breathes it in, and suddenly like he feels the voice, and you can hear the voice, and the voice is green, and he's like, why is this voice green? That's weird. And now, since he's inhaled all the smoke, it's just a jumbled mess, and it's beautiful pages. I'll put some of them up for you to see. Gorgeous. I love everything Rodriguez does in this book. It looks so freaking good. And then the more singular coloring, which is like the beautiful outlines. It's crazy, like the eyes seeing specific colors. He's seeing in Martian vision, which is really interesting. Seeing very specific outlines. He's like, who's talking to me? Who's talking to me in this situation? He's like, you, me, we are all talking. Remember the man on fire, the human flame, the explosion, the smoke. What waited, the memory of, no, what's happening to this? He starts, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's really cool. I dig it so much. So now he is just seeing in Martian vision the colors of his wife and his son, and there's these visions and these blobs, and he's like, you got to remember, you got to look up. Now, this is where in the book you see a message that says, message to my fellow Martians, to activate your Martian vision, please take page 25 of the comic book in your hands and hold it up to the light. Use a lamp, a reading light, the sun itself, it's up to you. And there's like a woman holding up the page. And we get the page. I am reading this online, so I don't know what that's going to look like. You can do your own research if you want. I should have pre-ordered this book because I didn't know I was going to like it so much. But you're going to see some colors appearing in like the background of that book. So that page is there. John like falls to the ground, and that's when we see like our clearest vision of him looking at the Martian Manhunter, or as he says, the Martian Mindfucker. And that's where it ends, because now he's like blurred the line between the two. So he's now of two beings. It's not really like explicit what happens. It's like he's in an explosion, and like this being that is smoke finds him and connects to him because he's already kind of Martian and distant, but like a good thing. We'll get more clear answers as the story progresses. As it stands, I believe this is like a 6-issue mini inside the Absolute Universe. And I'll say this. I have read the first issue of all 4 other books that came out. I've dropped off a couple of the Absolute books. I will be reading the entirety of Absolute Martian Manhunter. If it gets more than 6, that'd be fantastic. If it's just 6, I like that too. Because this book is straight up what I like, a detective story, weird noir aesthetics of beautiful alien iconography and color layouts. It's brilliant, and it plays with the formula of like comic books. I haven't really like talked about the panel layout or the lettering layouts, but it's breathtaking. Very simplistic colors, but it just pops so well. This book is gorgeous. If you are hesitant on it at all, I do recommend checking it out. It's really fun. My favorite of the Absolute books so far. If I had to do a quick ranking, and I hate to do it, I would probably go Absolute Martian Manhunter, then Superman, then Wonder Woman, then Flash, then Batman. But we'll see what happens. I'll check out Green Lantern too, but this is cool. This is really cool. So, Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 1. I am going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.